that I'm pretty excited about. Tim, welcome to Tough Love Tuesday. Thanks again. I was telling everybody that I wasn't making excuses. I literally just forgot. You reminded me. This is great. We're here.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we should talk about. I think we should title this, What is Your Excuse?
Yes.
What is
Yes. So here's
Go for
Tim.
it.
Okay, so there's one angle that I thought was interesting after we jumped off. Okay,
Mhm.
so one, let's start with the easy way in when it comes to making excuses. Because let's be honest, maybe your audience that's watching this right now is like, I don't have any fucking excuses. I don't have any.
Mhm.
Right? I'm perfect. Okay, so fine. Let's talk about it from the angle of removing your audience excuses, so
Okay.
they can get out of their own way, so they can take action. And here's how you do it. You have to be vulnerable enough to admit that you too have excuses. Because I think if you can be honest with your own excuses, or maybe go back in time, right? Go back to when you were, 3 steps ago, 5 steps ago, whatever. You too were making excuses at that stage. So here's one excuse that maybe you made 5 steps ago that your current audience is making, right? Is I don't have the money for it.
Mhm.
So here's a perfect story of why excuses can kind of hold this back. So I had a person that I was talking to a while ago. He's a personal trainer, really great guy, and I had him. I was like, "Hey, you need to join Elevated. That's gonna be perfect for you. It's nothing in terms of like how expensive it is. $300 a month, dude. It's well in your means. I think this is gonna be a really good place for you to start." He
Mhm.
said, "Yeah, I don't know. I think I could do it on my own. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." I don't remember the exact excuse, but basically he was like, "I don't have the money for it."
Mhm.
Fast forward, all 8 months went by, and he asked me a question about Instagram, about content. And I responded with, "If you were in Elevator, you would have been known this. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Honestly, Raylan, not joining was the biggest mistake I made because now I'm even farther away from being able to afford it.
Yep.
Things got worse, not better. Like I screwed up." Okay, so that's what I mean. And I don't think it's, yes, of course, we want to remove excuses so that way we can get more clients. But it's also about if we can get past their excuses, we can help them. Because here's the truth, not everybody, but there's a lot of individuals that if they don't work with you, things are going to get worse for them, not better. And so you're not really serving them by letting them keep their excuses. Because like we always say, you can't have both. You can't have your excuses and the success.
Right. And everything really is a trade-off. So excuse creates a trade-off. So what's the trade-off? So in this case example, he was going to do it on his own. He was going to save money by spending time and effort to learn and try and do and stay accountable and stay consistent, right? It was a trade-off he was willing to make for whatever reason because he believed that the value was higher on this end, right? And that's when an excuse kind of tricks you into believing there's a value. But if you weigh those things, if you look at it on paper and you say, to get here, I can do this. I can join a community. I can join a mastermind. I can hire a coach. I can hire a consultant. I can pay a VA. I can do whatever to make my business better. This is what it takes. Or I can do this, and it's going to involve me taking time, me doing research, me testing and trying, me doing whatever. If you look at those, a lot of times you can get your excuses out of the way because you can just say, yes, this one makes most sense. And then you can say, well, why am I not jumping on that? Why am I
Yeah.
not? I'm afraid. Am I afraid of spending money? Am I afraid of outsourcing my ideas? Am I afraid of stepping into new territory? What are you afraid of? And that becomes that doesn't become, that is the excuse. That kind of exposes the excuse for it. And I've had to do this. Like I've written these things down. I'm telling you this because I did it. And not like I thought this was a cool example. Like I wrote it down. Like, why am I unwilling to do this? Is it not smart to do? Or is it not the right thing to do? Or am I afraid of doing it or whatever? And looking at those things and just asking myself, and then on both sides of the paper, not just this side, but this side, like, am I willing to do that? What makes me afraid here? What am I worried about on this side? And they kind of exposing my own excuses because we all have some kind of excuse, and you
Yeah.
could say it a different way. Let's say it nicely.
Stories.
You have a story. We have a story that we're telling ourselves, about life, about the way things are, about what we're entitled to or what's supposed to happen or whatever. Like we have all of these stories, but if we can, and we have a client, he's a mediator, he's a judge, or not judge, he's not a judge, he's a lawyer, mediator. He's brilliant, brilliant guy. But what he talks about is that neuroscience has discovered that humans are 98% emotional, 2% rational. So we make most of our decisions emotionally, even when we think we're not. And there's nothing wrong with emotions. Emotions aren't bad, they're not evil, they're whatever, but they're just not logical. And so when you kind of separate that and you kind of see what emotion is driving this, why am I doing this? You can start to make better decisions for like where you're going to go.
Yeah, I think because you're so right. There's so much work we have to do to filter through our own bullshit, right? Like we have to look at and go, what is actually guiding this decision? And I think in order to get from like, there's always these steps, right? When you first start your business, to go from that to I'm now able to not have a side hustle but a full hustle, you have to become someone new. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the same you. You have to become someone new. So what are the excuses? What are the stories? The stories and excuses is your past self saying, hey, no, 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 we don't need to change. We don't need to grow. Let's stay back because this is safer. This is more comfortable. And so we make excuses. And so it's interesting because you have to, I like the filter system of, okay, what am I afraid of here? Like, what am I worried about? And I think that is partly why we make those excuses. And by the way, I don't even just want to talk about excuses from the perspective of buying. It's not just that. What are your excuses as to why you aren't making content? What is your excuse for why you're not jumping on a podcast? I've also been I've been surprised. We've reached out to some people asking them to come on the podcast, for example, and you'd be surprised how many people have told me, I don't think I'm ready for that yet.
Yeah.
What does that mean? You're not ready. Does your voice not work? Like, do you not know how to answer questions?
I'm
Like, do
unable to
you,
talk, bro. I mean, in my
what do
head.
you, what is the, and there was somebody, again, I can't help it, but there's somebody that told me this. And so I chatted with her in the DMs. I was like, okay, walk me through what that means. You have a business. Yes. Yes. You have an offer. Yes. Yes. You have clients. Yes. Yes. What? I'm lost here. But again, that's your ego, we're going to call it, right? Saying, no, who we are today, I don't want to experience that scary stuff over there 'cause I don't know. It's like the hell
Yeah.
that I'm in right now. I'm cool here because at least I understand, at least I know it.
Yep. Absolutely. It's yeah, that fear of kind of stepping out and I think there's a little bit still of like I was talking to a therapist about this, and we're conditioned from an early age for permission. We're conditioned to be allowed things, right? We're conditioned in a hierarchical system, like well, we're at this level versus that level, and we're trying to get there. And so we have that tendency to say, that's where I want to be, but I need to get there. Instead of just saying, I'm there. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the there things, right? You like that, Anthony? Right there you go.
Yeah.
Instead
Don't
of
be
saying like
jelly.
I'm going to do the there things, I'm going to say, oh, I wait till I get there. Right? I need permission.
Hmm.
I need to be allowed into this circle, this club. But wait, you live. First of all, you live as a free person. You can make some decisions, right? But we also live in the internet as a permissionless society, for good or for bad. You don't need anybody. There's no gatekeepers for many opportunities. There are some gatekeepers for certain things, right? But there aren't gatekeepers to jump on an Instagram live. There's no gatekeepers to start your own podcast. There's no gatekeepers to do a blog, create a piece of content. There's no gatekeepers to go work out. There's no gatekeepers to read a book, to write something. Like there is no gatekeeper. There is no I need to be at that level to do just it's making the decision that is part of who I want to be. As part of the path to getting there, right? Because what we talk about is it's not just build a business, it's build the habits that lead to success, right?
Yeah.
So this is the type of person I want to be. These are the things I do. These are the things that I do as this person. And you don't need permission for that.
I think the other part of this too is like that's why we talk so much about behavior sim, as you know, is that like most of you watching right now, most of you that see this after the fact have enough information to execute, but you still haven't. You have bought course after course, you have joined coaching program after coaching program, yet and still you are still in the same place you were a year ago. And so what is the problem with this? It's not the information you need. It's the removal of your own obstacle, which is you, the removal of your own excuses. And so, okay, so how do you figure this out? And I think it was Dean Jackson, and he talked about this in I Love Marketing podcast. And I think it was Dan Sullivan. Yeah, Dan Sullivan who introduced him to it, which is the idea of writing down in the beginning of the morning, what am I avoiding? What am I avoiding?
Hmm.
And that is your key. Because if you go, what are my excuses? Your brain, again, we do this thing where it protects us. If you call somebody out and go, what are your excuses right now? Like, I don't have any excuses, right? So it's a natural thing. So instead, to go around that, circumvent that, you go, okay, what am I avoiding? We can be honest there. Okay, what am I avoiding? Well, I'm avoiding reaching out to somebody, asking them to join the podcast. I'm avoiding making content. I'm avoiding writing out my ideas. I'm avoiding picking up that book. And then once you realize that, you're like, oh, here's the avoidance. And then you ask them the hard question of, why am I avoiding that?
Yep.
And there is the excuse, right? Like there is the underlying thing of, I don't want to do that thing because it may make me better, right? If I'm better, that means I got to show up. If I show
Yep.
up, then I may get found out, right?
Yep.
Like that could be the thing for you. So if you're one of those people that are like, no, I don't have excuses. Look, dude, like my entire brand, the entire brand of Elevated is wrapped around not making excuses, and I too have excuses, folks. Newsflash. And
Yep.
and sometimes they hide from me. Sometimes I'm able to find them. But look, we all got them. I
Hmm.
think that's a good way to diagnose your own excuses.
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell people I was a pastor for a decade, and one thing I used to tell people, like, if there's something in your mind constantly, but you don't want to do it, it's probably the right thing to do. Right.
Mm.
And we can take this here. Like, if there's something that you keep thinking about that keeps coming back, but you're not acting on it, then there's an excuse. So you can think about, like, the thing that I constantly think about. I keep thinking about this. I keep coming back to this. It keeps coming up in my mind. Write it down. So, but I'm not acting on it. So what's the excuse? It could be a million things. There could even be an actual explanation. There could be a real reason. Write it down, just so you know. Like, it's part of knowing it. But when you start to, like I said, when you start to, like, look at the things logically, I think the thing that helped me, Raylan, the most was Alex Hermosi. He was talking about investing, right? He talks about the, what is it, the investing in yourself. I forget. He has got some catchy phrase that goes with, like, the S&P or whatever. Um, but he if you took $300 a month that you're going to spend on coaching, and you put that into stock market every month, the return you would get on that is so minimal in terms of dollars, right? The actual return, even that compound, even if you had a great return rate of even 10%, that would return you, what, $30 a month. That compounds a little bit, but the compounding is there. So Alex Hermosi said, I would have taken, and I did. I took every dollar that I didn't need to eat, sleep under, or wear, or get around with, and I invested it into coaching. I invested it into tools. I invested into growth, mentorship, all these things. Like, I just invested it there because it compounds so much faster at that level. And that's a dollars and cents breakdown. But for me, that was the thing. Like, I was so scared to let go of $300 or
Mm-hmm.
$500 or $3,000, which I paid for coaching programs, right? I was so scared to let go of that. But the return on the other end was exponentially higher. And it wasn't just the money. It was like the mindset of learning how to do the things that I wanted to do. It was the community that I was able to network with, that I was able to pair with, I could bounce ideas off of, I could partner with on different ventures. Like, all these things, there's all these side benefits just from a business perspective of really assessing your fear and kind of taking that dive. And so whatever the thing is, understanding your excuse and then not letting that guide your life. Like, if you let your whole life be guided by excuse, because we talk about this, you've externalized now your power. You've given your power away. You've given control of your life away to an imaginary thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is an excuse. It's a story. So now you're owned. You're owned by some story that you made up that's not even true. Welcome to a great life.
So going back to what you said though about the investing in coaching versus investing in the stock market, it makes perfect sense. Why? Is because that what you're saying, if you're willing, some people heard that and said, "Oh, I'd rather invest in the stock market, or I'd rather invest in somebody else." The reason why is because you're saying you have more faith in the stock market than yourself. You have more faith in the 10% return, whatever it is,
Mm.
than your own ability to execute. And if that's your worry, you have something there. And then on the flip side, I talked to somebody yesterday, and she said something that was really interesting to me. I never thought of it this way. She said that sometimes I think you have to ask yourself why you're investing in a coaching program. Look, I love coaches, right? Hence the Elevated Coaches Academy. I built a whole mastermind for coaches. But there are some individuals that hire coaches because they think that that coach can fix them.
Mm.
Like, I am broken. Like, my stuff sucks. I don't know anything, but this coach can solve all my problems. And if that's the reason for hiring a coach, then you're not doing the right thing. And there
Mm.
are some cases, and I think this is again why we built our mastermind, is that look, you already know everything you need to know, right? Like, I just met with someone yesterday, and I love her to death, but she's got fucking 20. I'm not exaggerating when I say she's got 20 certifications. Bro, she was probably good after the first one. What do you need 20 for? But like, if that was her journey and that she figured out, oh, okay, I don't need more than that, right? Like, there's a conversation. Look, I don't hate learning. Like, I want people to continue to learn and continue to grow. I think that's important. But why are you doing it? That's the more important question. Like, Elisa, even who's here right now, has brought this up, where when she wants to go and buy something and she wants to go buy another course, she usually brings it up to me because I ask her, okay, why are you doing it? Like, what specific thing is going? And so, there's been some cases that she's been like, "Yeah, actually, I don't think I need that." Like, and I'm like, "Okay, there you go. You just save some money." But again, though, there's a line. That's why I think you got to talk about it, right? What is the purpose of this? Because, like, for example, if you're like, I want to be a copywriter, and I've practiced a lot, I've watched a lot of things, but I could really use an apprenticeship as a copywriter, yeah, for sure, go buy that coaching program. Like, that makes perfect sense. But if it's you've been a copywriter, this is just an example, but if you've been a copywriter for 10 years and you're like, I can't come out with this coaching program until I buy one more certification. No, 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 no. You're buying it for the wrong reason. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, it's not, sometimes it's a self-worth thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But it also exposes like other opportunities. So when you can like really understand what you're afraid of, then you can actually find the correct fit. So like if you go back to just like diagnosing the excuse itself, like we've talked to people that what it came down to is they were just scared of sales. Like they don't want to sell to people, right? They don't
Hmm.
think I can't sell to people. I'm not persuasive. I'm not a good speaker, whatever. Okay, that's great. That's an excuse. It's an excuse. But let's okay, what's the next move? Is
Now
the
what?
next
Exactly. Now
is the
what?
next move to get better at it? Is the next move to hire somebody to outsource that too? Right? Is the next move to sell products differently? Like that? Okay, we understand. That's fantastic. Now we can take that and figure out what the opportunity is there or what the next step is there. So a
Yeah.
lot of times, like you're grasping for things you don't because you're afraid of something that you're not aware of, and so you're grasping for solutions that aren't actually going to solve the problem because you're not aware of the problem. So you're spending money, you're spending time, and that's why when you find a great opportunity, you're skeptical of it because you've wasted all this money and time and energy and effort on the wrong tools to solve a
Hmm.
problem.
Yeah.
So getting clear on what the problem and the excuse is, whatever, helps you find the right solution. That's the other piece of the pie.
Yeah, I think again, if you leave this conversation and you go again, you're still at the point of I don't have any excuses. Like, go back and rewatch the whole fucking thing, or maybe there's just no help for you. But look, dude, we all go through the excuse. Like, my latest one, and there's probably been more, but my latest one was, and this was hiring our first salesperson. So Adrian does sales for us now, and Tim, you know this. How long was I going back and forth about hiring somebody to do our sales? Because I was
Mm-hmm.
making excuses. Oh, it's going
Yep.
to take forever for me to train them. How can I give him what's in my head? How can I do this? Well, as I was making those excuses, our sales are going down because I can't dedicate the time that I used to
Yep.
that task because I'm elevating, right? Like, and so it's one of those things where, again, I was sacrificing the growth of the company, the success of the company, to hold on to my excuse. Because for whatever reason, I wanted my excuse more in that moment than I did the growth of the company. And it took you, it took the team, and everyone to go, hey, I think it's about that time we start thinking about this. And then finally I was like, oh, fuck. And I just ripped the Band-Aid off. But I think, part of the solution, because we've been talking about a lot of the diagnosis, but the solution is actually way more simple than we think.
Yeah.
It's just literally observing the thought patterns that's going in our head. It's diagnosing, hey, I have this excuse. But one of my favorite examples of how to overcome your excuses is something that you experienced when you came out and you visited here in Arizona, was we went to the cold plunge. The
Mm-hmm.
best way to get in the damn cold is just to get in the cold. Because if you wait long enough, right, the excuses are coming up. Oh, I can't go in there too long. I can't do it because of this. Oh, I only have short amount of time. I should probably just do in there. I shouldn't even do it. Maybe I think I'm getting a cold. Like maybe I shouldn't go in the cold. Like whatever. If you give yourself long enough. So instead, the best thing that I do is because I go right from the sauna and I go right into the cold plunge. I just did this yesterday, and I literally don't think. As soon as I get out of the thing, I just know I'm going straight to the cold plunge. I'm not going to look at the clock. I'm not going to try to time it. I'm not going to do anything. I just get the fuck in the cold plunge. Just get in. It's going to suck, but just get in. And I think that speaks a lot to our excuses. I'm not saying this is the solution for everybody, but the best way that I remove my excuses is to outmaneuver them. Meaning, like, my best defense against excuses is just activity.
Yeah.
If I can outrun my excuses by just doing the thing. Before they even creep in my stupid little head, I just do the thing. Oh,
Yeah.
again, when we were talking to somebody recently, and they were like, "Oh, I'm afraid to go to IG Live." Okay, cool. And there's more than one way to get around it. Maybe you practice, or you do what I did when I first started, is I hit the fucking live button, and I had to just come up with something.
Something, right? Yeah. But that goes back to something. So I was talking to a lady this morning, and I said you should check out Elevated Coaches. It's right for you for where you're at. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because she's having mindset struggles right now, right? Money mindset. She's doubting like how good she is at what she does. All these things. Habit formation, right? So you get out of the sauna and you walk into the cold plunge. You do that now so much that it's a habit. You don't think about it. And that's what I do. Because this is what I do, because I've started this. But you have to get in that habit, right? And so part of what we have in Elevated, which has changed my business, is the accountability piece, right? So right now we have a 5-day challenge going on. That 5-day challenge is based on habits that you can create and accountability to get there. That's what changed it for me, because at the end of the day, we have this daily this report you can do at the end of each day. Did I do the 5 things I said I was going to do? Well, now's the time you have to answer the question. Did I do the things I said I was going to do? Yes or no? And if it's no, it's why. Why didn't I do them? Okay, there could be lots of reasons, but there is a reason. So just write down the reason. Okay, so you start to see the excuses come out there. There can be actual legitimate reasons. Sometimes you can have pancreatitis and I don't know, or whatever, when your appendix explodes. Like, things can happen. That is life. That is true. But most of the time, I would say the majority of the time, it's because we chose something else as a priority, or we gave ourselves an excuse or whatever. So that was the most powerful thing for me, was to say, like, I'm not doing the things that I said I needed to do in order to succeed. And the reason I'm not doing them, I can now see, because I write them down every day, right?
Yeah.
So that accountability piece, creating the habits of doing those things, creating the habits of reflecting on whether or not I am doing them, creating the habits of accountability, having a community of people to check in with, like the habits. That was the biggest piece for me. That's what I got out of Elevated when I started. That's what changed my business. And there was excuses before that about money and all that stuff. But to what you were saying about that, like, building those habits helps you overcome the excuses by just becoming things that you do.
Yeah, and again, you see the patterns, right? Like, you see the patterns of, oh, I've made the same excuse time and time again. Because I think you said before, right? 2% of your brain is logical, where the 98% is emotional. Well, you have an uphill battle, because when you make game plans for growing your business, that's the 2% of your brain that logically knows this is the way you grow a business. And then the 98% of you is fighting hard, if you don't get that aligned, to make sure that 2% don't fucking happen.
Yeah.
And so you have to get really good at, and this is why I wish Elisa was up here, because this is where Elevated comes in that beautiful balance between the tactical and the woo, as we call it, right? It's like right in the middle. Because look, how do you get the emotional to not get in the way? You have to get in alignment. right? Are you in alignment with your offer? Are you in alignment with your brand? Because look, if you don't want to put out content every day, right? If you don't want to get on IG Live, if you don't want to reach out to somebody and ask them if they want to join your program, you're not in alignment either with your offer, with your brand, with yourself. And so the best way to make sure that 98% emotional, being that we are doesn't get in the way of our professionals' goals, we got to get the fuck out of the way by identifying, are we in alignment? And
Yep.
Elisa speaks on that, more beautifully. You know what? I think the next time we do a workshop, I'm gonna have Elisa actually talk on alignment, not from a place of a tactical, because she's really good at explaining it,
Mm,
even more than me.
yeah. I dig it.
But I think that's it for us today. We got in some weeds. I appreciated it. It was a good shit. Elisa, you need to join this next time so you can talk about it. Thank you all. As always, DM us the word elevated fucking, what is it? Elevated challenge.
Elevate. Yeah.
DM
5-day
me, DM
Building
me
the habits,
elevated challenge.
the mindset, the accountability to succeed.
Yes, elevated challenge to join the 5-day challenge. It's amazing. I think you'll get a lot out of it. If you don't, it's because you like your excuses more than your success. I'll see you guys on the other side. See you next Tuesday. Later.